Hello everyone and welcome to a video that I've been meaning to get to for a little while, that being a ranking of the top 10 strongest characters in Jujutsu Kaisen. Jujutsu Kaisen has a very interesting power system, one of my personal favorites in any manga that I've read, and the way that it functions creates a lot of very interesting scenarios when it comes to fighting and power scaling. What with the differences in curse techniques, the various situations in which they are and aren't effective, domain expansions, domain neutralizing techniques, and many more things just like that. So, power scaling characters with all of those factors to consider is a very interesting thing to do, and it's possible that you could get a lot of different characters in different sort of rankings, save a few exceptions. So, with that out of the way, let's get on to the ranking. Starting off at the number 10 spot, we have Naobito Zenin, the current head of the Zenin family and supreme Grade 1 sorcerer. As of now, Naobito is the only character to be recognized as a supreme Grade 1 sorcerer, which I assume means that he is considered to be the most powerful of the Grade 1 sorcerers. And I think this is a pretty fair ranking to give to Naobito. His curse technique has a lot of very interesting uses. Projection sorcery allows him to turn 1 second into 24 frames, along with allowing him to trace a predetermined set of movements by using his field of view as the angle of the view. While the technique is active, anything touched by his palm must abide by the technique's rules, or they could be frozen for 1 second. This, combined with Naobito's natural born sense of strategic movement, as well as his general speed, he has been recognized as the fastest sorcerer alive, excluding Satoru Gojo, of course. Beyond just his own curse technique, he also has the secret arc Falling Blossom Emotion, which is one of the very few domain neutralizing techniques. This allows him to counter a domain's instant hit attack, which is basically the entire threat that comes from domain expansions. Now, out of all the Grade 1 sorcerers that we have seen so far, Naobito is the only one to have made use of Falling Blossom Emotion. The only thing we have seen similar to this is Mei and her brother Yuyu's use of Simple Domain. However, Yuyu is the only one there who's able to use Simple Domain, so without him, Mei is not able to counter the instant hits of domain expansions. So, because of that, I place Naobito here at the number 10 spot. At the number 9 spot, we have Daigon, a special grade curse spirit and a member of the Disaster Spirits. Daigon's curse technique does not have a name, but he's been shown to be able to produce large amounts of water and various sea creatures, which I assume are summoned from his domain expansion Horizon of the Captivating Skanda. This domain expansion has the instant hit technique Death Swarm, which summons a swarm of monsters, as the name would imply. Daigon has really only shown off his power in his fight against Nanami, Naobito, Maki, Megami, and Toji, but in that showing alone, he showed that he was able to fairly effectively deal with multiple Grade 1 and above sorcerers. The only trouble for Daigon really came in once Toji arrived, and Toji, being extremely powerful and possessing a special grade curse tool, was able to deal with him with very little difficulty. However, we can understate just what a number Daigon did against several fairly competent characters, including the number 10 spot on this list. So, for that, I have Daigon here at the number 9 spot. At the number 8 spot, we have Jogo, a special grade curse spirit and a member of the Disaster Spirits. Despite basically functioning throughout most of the story so far as a professional jobber, Jogo is actually quite the powerhouse. Per Imposter Ghetto's own observations, he has the power of about 8 or 9 Sukuna's fingers, which is like, that's saying something. His curse technique mostly focuses around him creating mini volcanoes which he uses to erupt and create fire. The first of his named techniques is Firestone Insects, which creates these large bugs that have stingers, and upon stinging their target, they create a loud noise and then explode. His other named technique is Maximum Meteor, which, as the name would imply, summons a giant meteor. This puts Jogo at least multi-building buster, We did not see Maximum Meteor explode like most meteors do, but if it is capable of doing that, it is possible that Jogo may actually be closer to a City Buster level. His domain expansion, Coffin of the Iron Mountain, puts his opponents inside of a volcano environment, which normally would instantly incinerate your average sorcerer. He's also shown use in Domain Amplification, which neutralizes all curse techniques it comes into contact with, which is exceptionally useful when you encounter people with very powerful curse techniques such as Satoru Gojo. Now, while Jogo has pretty much only been shown getting his ass kicked, we have to consider that he's been getting his ass kicked by some of the most powerful characters in the series. So, when we put it more objectively against all of the other characters in the series, it's very clear to see that Jogo has a level of power matched by only a handful of other characters, so for that reason I have him at the number 8 spot. At the number 7 spot I have Mahito, who is an unregistered special grade curse spirit and a member of the Disaster Spirits. Now, Mahito has not yet shown a showcasing of destructive power that is greater than Jogo. However, he has several abilities and characteristics that I think place him above Jogo when it comes to measuring his overall power. The first of which is Mahito's durability. His power to manipulate the shape of the soul, and his ability to use that on himself, makes him essentially unkillable unless you are Yuji, or you are able to use Simple Domain like Kokichi did. Without that, the guy's basically unkillable. The other reason is Mahito's seemingly limitless potential for growth. Due to Mahito being so young and unexperienced with the power that he already has, Mahito has perhaps just as much, if not more, room to grow than the main character of the series, which says a lot. Getting into his actual abilities, Idle Transfiguration allows Mahito to shape the soul, which translates into him being able to shape people's bodies, which he frequently uses to transfigure humans into monsters that he often uses for his own personal use in combat. He's been able to use this to create a technique called Soul Multiplicity, in which he merges two or more souls together and creates an effect called Body Repel, which is essentially creating an explosion of human flesh. Mahito's domain expansion, Self-Embodiment of Perfection, attaches himself to the souls of everyone within the domain, which allows him to use Idle Transfiguration without touching them. The most notable thing Mahito has done recently is learning the ability to split himself into a double. Although that double is not able to use Idle Transfiguration on other people, it is still able to transform its own body, which still makes him extremely dangerous. The other thing is that he is currently the only cursed spirit that we have seen use Black Flash. Now, as Toda himself so elegantly put it, before using Black Flash, it's like you're putting in a bunch of ingredients into a recipe that you haven't tasted yet. Experiencing Black Flash is like tasting those ingredients. Now that Mahito has used the Black Flash, he has experienced the core of cursed energy and the true nature of his own soul, which means he now has far greater potential for his uses of cursed energy and his cursed technique than he did before. We have yet to see what exactly that will translate into when it comes to his abilities, but it's safe to assume that it won't be anything good. So, for those reasons, I have Mahito here at the number 7 spot. In the number 6 spot, I have Suguru Ghetto, who is a special grade shaman with the ability Curse Manipulation. This allows him to absorb and control cursed spirits. Pretty simple stuff. I feel like the reason that Ghetto is here on the list is because he has a seemingly infinite capacity for cursed spirits. During Volume 0, when he makes use of the Tornado Curse Manipulation, he uses 4,461 curses, meaning that he had to have had all of those within him at the same time. This pretty much gives Ghetto access to an entire army of cursed spirits that he can take with him anywhere. There also doesn't really seem to be any cap to how powerful the spirits can be. As far as we've seen, He's been shown to be able to contain imaginary vengeful spirits and special grade cursed spirits such as the smallpox deity. Now, while Ghetto himself has not shown a domain expansion or the use of any domain neutralizing technique such as simple domain, the cursed spirits that he contains are able to use domain expansions, such as the smallpox deity, which would mean that Ghetto would be able to summon spirits that are able to then neutralize a domain if he gets caught in one. Now, while we haven't seen him do this, it is a possibility that Ghetto could absorb and control a cursed spirit on the level of the disaster spirits, which would be pretty crazy. So, for those reasons, I have him here in the number 6 spot. In the number 5 spot, I have Yura Kotsu, a special grade sorcerer and current member of the second year students at Jujutsu Tech. As of now, Yura has not made any appearance in Jujutsu Kaisen itself, however, he is the main character of the prequel story, which is currently considered Volume 0. Now, Yuta seems to have immense amounts of cursed energy, which resulted in him cursing his childhood sweetheart Rika Akotsu and turning her into a vengeful spirit. Rika herself is the source of much of Yuta's power in Volume 0, which is so immense that he is able to use complicated techniques such as reverse curse for the purpose of healing his friends, something that not even Satoru Gojo is capable of doing, and copying Inumaki Toge's cursed speech, something only members of the Inumaki clan are supposed to be capable of. When Yuta removed the limiters on Rika's cursed energy, she was able to defeat Suguru Ghetto's tornado technique, which means that she was stronger than the combined power of over 4,400 cursed spirits, likely including many grade 2 and grade 1 spirits, who knows, maybe even some special grades. So, it's safe to say that Rika is one of the most powerful cursed spirits that we have seen. Now, since Rika has dispelled, it's really unclear how powerful Yuta still is. He is still a special grade, and he is still supposed to have an immense amount of cursed energy. It's the whole reason Rika was created in the first place. So, it's safe to assume that with the training Yuta has been doing since we last saw him in Volume 0, he is still fairly powerful. However, until we see what he's capable of in the present, we're just going to have to go based on what we saw in Volume 0. Who knows? Once he shows up, we may have to change his position on the list. But, there you have it. Yura Kotsu at number 5. In the number 4 spot, we have Tojifushiguro. Toji is something of an anomaly. He has a heavenly restriction that makes his body completely devoid of cursed energy. But in return, he has superhuman physical capabilities, and his senses are heightened to such a level that he is able to detect curses even though he has no cursed energy. As we have seen in the Hidden Inventory arc and in the Shibuya incident, Toji is an absolute monster when it comes to physical combat, and this is largely due to his arsenal. Toji makes use of several special grade cursed objects, the first of which being the Inverted Spear of Heaven, which is a weapon capable of forcibly stopping any curse technique. This includes the Infinity, and presumably any other defensive Jujutsu technique. The other special grade tool we see him use is Playful Cloud, which is unique among cursed tools in that it is the only one not imbued with a technique. Instead, it is imbued with raw cursed energy, and its power depends on the strength of the user. Considering how absurdly strong Toji is, when it's in his hands, he is able to obliterate Daigon, a special grade cursed spirit, with relatively little difficulty. It should also be of note that Toji is seemingly able to hide his presence from sorcerers, and likely anyone else, and he was only able to be noticed from behind someone by Gojo because Gojo has the 6 eyes. So, due to his immense physical capabilities and his monstrous skills in combat, I have Tojifushiguro here at the number 4 spot. Alright, entering the top 3. In the number 3 spot, I have Megami Fushiguro. Now, I'm sure some of you are thinking to yourself, Misk, are you smoking crack? How the hell is Megami in the number 3 spot? Sure. The Ten Shadows technique has a lot of versatility. It's pretty useful, and the fact that Megami is able to do a domain expansion with Chimera Shadow Garden has its uses. It gives him the ability to neutralize other domains, and of course, capture opponents within a domain so that he can do a instant attack. However, how is that able to compete with any of the other characters on this list? Well, I probably should have put a little asterisk next to Megami's name, because when I say that Megami is the third most powerful character in the series, I mean that Eight-Handled Sword Divergent Scylla Divine General Mahoraga is the third most powerful character in the series. This Shikigami has the ability to become immune to any curse technique it is hit with, so long as the technique does not immediately kill it. As we see when it fights a Sukuna at 75% power, the techniques that we have seen instantly kill many other characters and obliterate several city blocks of Shibuya, it's able to survive it. So, with Mahoraga in consideration, I have to put Megami at the number 3 spot, just for what I like to call the Mahoraga suicide strategy. In the number 2 spot, I have the current Roman Sukuna with 15 fingers. Also, you could consider it to be 75% of his power, assuming that all of the fingers contain the same amount of Sukuna's power. As of now, Sukuna is one of the fastest and most durable characters in the series. Beyond just that, his curse techniques are extremely powerful. We've seen Dismantle, one-shot almost everyone that he uses it against. Cleave is essentially a more precise version of Dismantle, which is able to adjust itself based on the target's toughness and cursed energy level to make it much more effective than Dismantle. We've also seen him use an, as of now, unnamed fire ability, which is apparently stronger than Gojo's Flames, who, until the reveal of this power, was the strongest elemental user of any character in the series, and was also capable of one-shotting a recovering Mahoraga. Beyond his basic curse techniques, Sukuna also has his domain expansion, Malevolent Shrine. Malevolent Shrine functions differently from all other domain expansions we've seen thus far, in that it is not separated from the rest of the area by a barrier, and in return, its maximum effective radius is increased to nearly 200 meters. Everything within the domain is exposed to Cleave and Dismantle, which, as we have seen, effectively vaporizes everything within the domain. So, for those reasons alone, current Sukuna is at the number 2 spot. Once he is at full power with all 20 fingers, it's a possibility that he could be the strongest character in the series. We'll just have to wait and find out. So, Realman Sukuna here at the number 2 spot. And finally, at the number 1 spot, I'm sure to no one's surprise, we have Satoru Gojo, who is currently recognized as the most powerful Jujutsu sorcerer in the world, and is currently the most powerful character in the series. Gojo's technique, the Limitless, has multiple uses. The first one is the Infinity, which is the neutral form of the Limitless, which makes Gojo essentially untouchable by dividing up the space approaching him. The example used in the series is Achilles and the Tortoise, but to give maybe a little bit more of an understandable example for those of you not familiar with that tale, on a number line, there are infinite decimals. You can add infinitely more 0 places behind a decimal point after a number. So on a number line, even though there's a finite amount of space between 0 and 1, the closer you get to 0, the more decimal spaces you can add, meaning that in theory, even though the amount of space is finite, if you have to go through every decimal place to arrive at 0, you'll be doing it forever. So, by essentially forcing you to go through every decimal place, Gojo slows you down as you approach him, and you will never reach him. We then have the positive use of the infinity, that being Azure Glow, which is Gojo using the power of attraction to cause everything to move towards a single point. We have seen him use this for the purpose of crushing his opponent's limbs. The alternate use of this is Red Glow, in which he inverts the Azure Glow and creates a violent, repulsive force. We've seen him use this multiple times, including in his battle against Tojifushiguro, in which he sent him probably several hundred meters away into a cement wall. When these two abilities are combined, you get Hollow Technique Purple, which creates an imaginary mass which pretty much erases everything it comes into contact. Now, for Gojo's ultimate technique, we have his Domain Expansion Unlimited Void, which seems to expose the people inside of it to all information in existence, or at the very least, makes them see and feel everything, meaning that the infinite amount of information in the universe causes a never-ending stream of information into the mind, and it's too much to handle, and you just die if you go in there. So, for those reasons, I have Satoru Gojo here in the #1 spot as the strongest character in the series. With that, this video is concluded. If you have any disagreements with my placements on this list, if you have anyone that you think should be on here, or anyone that you think shouldn't be on here, please let me know in the comments below. I welcome the discussion. It's one of my favorite things about making these videos, is hearing what you guys have to think about it. So, if you want to say anything about that, please do. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe. I do Jujutsu Kaisen chapter reviews every week, and I do Jujutsu Kaisen character discussions every other week. So if you're interested in those, you should definitely subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss any of my uploads. If you enjoy other series such as Record of Ragnarok, Chainsaw Man, and Kengan Omega, I do videos on those series as well, so if you're interested in those, you should definitely check out my channel. If you enjoy discussing Jujutsu Kaisen with other people, or you just enjoy the content I produce on this channel, I highly suggest you check out my Discord server. I have a link to it on my channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you around.